Are you tired of hearing about the booming economy while your own financial reality tells a different tale? You're not going crazy. There's a reason for this disconnect, and it's time to shine a light on the truth. The mainstream media and politicians paint a rosy picture of America's economic success, touting low unemployment rates and record-breaking stock market highs. But for millions of hardworking Americans, this supposed prosperity remains elusive. Stagnant wages, rising costs of living, and mounting debt have left many feeling left behind, struggling to make ends meet in a system that seems rigged against them. The stakes couldn't be higher. As the gap between the official narrative and the lived experiences of Americans grows wider, so too does the public's distrust in our institutions and leaders. It's time to question the very foundation of our economic beliefs and ask ourselves, who really benefits from this booming economy?
The U.S. economy added 353,000 jobs last month, blowing past expectations.
The U.S. economy is fighting back against the pressures of inflation and winning. Nation's GDP beat expectations in the last 3 months of 2022.
The United States added 236,000 jobs last month, coming in slightly below expectations, a sign that the Federal Reserve's efforts to cool inflation could be paying off.
The official economic indicators seem to tell a story of unprecedented growth and prosperity. The unemployment rate has reached historic lows, hovering below 4% for a record-breaking 27 months. The stock market has soared to all-time highs, with the S&P 500, NASDAQ Composite, and Dow Jones Industrial Average all breaking records in recent months. GDP, the broadest measure of economic activity, has been consistently rising, painting a picture of a robust and resilient economy. But scratch beneath the surface, and a very different reality emerges. For the majority of Americans, these impressive numbers don't align with their daily struggles and financial pressures. A recent poll conducted by the New York Times found that 78% of Pennsylvania voters view the economy as fair or poor despite the glowing economic reports. This sentiment echoes across the nation, with many Americans feeling left out of the supposed economic boom. While the stock market reaches new heights, a staggering 80% of the wealth generated remains concentrated in the hands of the top 10% of Americans. Income inequality continues to widen, with wage growth failing to keep pace with the rising costs of essentials like housing, healthcare, and education. The Census Bureau reports that the median household income, adjusted for inflation, has remained nearly stagnant over the past 2 decades. Moreover, the rosy employment numbers mask the reality of underemployment, wage stagnation, and job insecurity. Millions of Americans find themselves trapped in low-wage, part-time, or gig work, lacking the benefits and stability of traditional full-time employment. A study by the Economic Policy Institute reveals that the average worker's hourly wage has increased by a mere 3.5% since the 1970s, while productivity has grown by over 150%. This disconnect has left many Americans questioning the very foundations of our economic system. They feel the weight of mounting debt and the gnawing sense that the American dream is slipping out of reach. The glossy veneer of the booming economy rings hollow in the face of these daily realities, so it becomes clear that the official numbers paint an incomplete and often misleading picture. To truly understand the state of America's economy, we must look beyond the surface-level indicators and confront the complex realities that shape the lives of ordinary Americans. Only then can we begin to address the root causes of this economic divide and work towards a more equitable and inclusive prosperity. Behind America's booming economy, there's a harder truth. Millions of workers face daily struggles and hardships. These are the stories we don't often hear about, the experiences of everyday Americans dealing with low wages, high living costs, and a system that seems to work against them. One of the biggest challenges for American workers is the rising cost of basic needs like housing, healthcare, and education. The median price for a house is now over $440,000 compared to under $200,000 in 1972. This makes it harder for many Americans to afford a home even if they work full-time. The way we work has also changed a lot in recent years. More people are working in the gig economy or as independent contractors without the usual benefits that come with traditional jobs. This leaves many workers without health insurance, paid leave, or retirement plans, which puts them at risk if they get sick or hurt. American workers' struggles aren't new. They result from decades of low wage growth and rising income inequality. Over the past 40 years, productivity has grown 3.5 times as fast as hourly pay. This means workers are making more but earning relatively less, and most of the money is going to the wealthy. In fact, the richest 10% of Americans own more than 80% of the stock market wealth. These untold stories show an American workforce under a lot of pressure, trying to stay afloat in an economy that often feels unfair. From people working multiple jobs to make ends meet to those with a lot of debt and unable to find good-paying jobs, these experiences are the hidden price of America's so-called economic success. By bringing these stories to light, we see that a truly thriving thriving economy isn't just about numbers or stock market gains, but about the well-being and financial security of the workers who make it run. Only by facing these struggles head-on and finding solutions that put American workers first can we build an economy that works for everyone. As we look closer at the difference between what we're told about the economy and what American workers actually face, it's important to think about the role that big companies play in shaping what we believe. These powerful businesses have a lot to gain by keeping up the idea that the economy is doing great, even when their actions are making things harder for everyday Americans. One way companies influence the story about the economy is through their control of the media. A small number of very rich people own a lot of the information that we see and hear. When a few companies own most of the media, they can choose what stories to focus on and how to present economic issues in a way that benefits them. They might focus on good economic news while ignoring the problems workers face. Companies also use their money and influence to shape government policies to help their profits. They give money to political campaigns and hire lots of lobbyists to change laws, rules, and trade deals in their favor, even if it means hurting workers or consumers. This corporate influence has created a system that puts profits first, leading to low wages, job insecurity, and a growing gap between the rich and everyone else. Another way companies shape the story about the economy is through their own public relations. They brag about their big profits and rising stock prices as signs of a great economy, while ignoring the fact that these gains often come at the cost of their workers. Companies have record profits, and CEOs make a lot of money because they're making workers do more but paying them less. This difference between how well companies are doing and how much workers are struggling is rarely talked about in the mainstream conversation about the economy. As we see the ways that corporate influence shapes the story about the economy, it's clear that what's good for big business is often not good for American workers. By using their money and power to control the media, influence government policies, and shape what people think, companies have helped create an economy that works for a small group at the expense of most people. Only by recognizing and pushing back against this corporate influence can we start to build an economy that is more honest and fair for everyone. As we've seen in this video, America's economy is much more complicated and tough than what is often shown by those in power. The surprising truth is that while a few rich people get the most benefits from a system made to help them, many hardworking Americans are struggling to get by. But it doesn't have to stay this way. By understanding the big gap between what is officially said and what people actually experience, by sharing the untold stories of American workers, and by questioning the corporate control over our economy, we can start to create a better future. If you like this video, check out my recent video where I explore one of the biggest myths of modern work, the idea that people are really working for all 8 hours of their 9-to-5 jobs.